Hello and good evening, and welcome to my virtual cottage. I am the Wisteria Witch, and today we'll be having some convention tea about Sakura Con 2025. Sakura Con, this is one of my favorite conventions. This is my third time going, my first time being 2009, when it was still at the arch building of the convention center area. Oh boy, there's a lot to describe about the geography of Sakura Con for those of you who have not attended. So, if this is your first time tuning into Convention Tea, this is just basically just me, the Wisteria Witch, just talking about my experience at every convention that I go to because I just want to give you a taste of what it was like at the convention that I attended. Every convention has a different flavor, so hence we are just having tea together tonight. And tonight's flavor is Sakura Con 2025. Some locals call it Sac, or like another pronunciation I've heard is Sakura Con, but I've always called it Sakura Con. All right, and if this is your first time tuning in, again, this is part of Scarlet Rhapsody. Scarlet Rhapsody, we are the longest and most active archive of convention history on the internet. We've been around since the early 2000s. We've been doing convention reports since 1999. I'm on the way to restore those old convention reports because the oldest that you can find on my website is, I believe, Fanime 03, or was it Anime Central 03? But I have conventions cosplay photos spanning over 20 years of fandom. And I've started this whole operation after Anime Expo 2000. I had a great experience at Anime Expo. I wanted to talk about my experience, share photos. I wanted to like make a shrine over my experience at Anime Expo. And since then, I just been building upon my website, and I am proud to say that I am the I that we've been going as long as we have. So I got a humble brag right there. Okay, SakuraCon 2025. This was a very interesting year to say the least. I know a lot of people have expressed that this was a fairly off year for SakuraCon. Again, this is my third time attending. I'm local to Southern California, so a lot of my perspective is an outsider looking in. I hope to one day call the Pacific Northwest my home, and SakuraCon is, again, one of my favorite conventions. I love it because I just like the whole, I generally like the vibes of Seattle. I like the caliber of guests they get. Last year we had the actress for Setsuna Yuki from Love Live. This year we had the actress for Nico Yazawa, also from Love Live. We had some cast and crew from the latest Gundam G Quacks. I will never figure out how to pronounce that right. Gundam GQ? Let me know in the comments. And in addition to that, uh, SoccerCon just has like a lot going on for it. There's just a lot of things that I really enjoy about SoccerCon, even on an off year. Last year was like my first time attending in like God knows how many years. 2024 minus 2009, you do the math. And my purpose for going was mainly to compete in CWF in the Pacific Northwest Division. And because I really feel so at home with my Pacific Northwest friends, I decided to just give it a go again. In fact, I actually roomed with some of my CWF castmates, our lovely Shikanoko and Dear God. Lol, Dear God. And we ended up staying at the Westin. I dropped the ball on getting a hotel because originally I thought I was going to room by myself. I thought I was going to be commuting from the Kirkland into Seattle, but that didn't seem to be the case. A few friends just wanted rooms kind of like at the last minute in SakuraCon terms. So just compare it with Emerald City Comic Con. So basically, I was still able to get a room at the Sheraton for Emerald City Comic Con at the last minute versus SoccerCon, where all the good hotels close to the convention, whether it's the Arch building or the Summit building, were already all sold out. So I just ended up just getting a room at the Westin, which is not a bad walk, but you kind of had to be cognizant of what time of day you're walking. And also, you're dealing with Seattle rain as well, so you kind of had to plan accordingly. And thankfully, a lot of the buildings in the with like a lot where the walkways are also covered to accommodate for people trying to walk in the rain because Yeah, Seattle locals don't believe in umbrellas, so that's a thing. And before we get started diving into Sakura Con 2025, let me just tell you about one of our affiliates. This is Petals and Poison. They are a goth brand that sells a lot of goth related merchandise. I actually own a few tees from them. I own a couple of jewelry from them. And you can use my code Spectre15 to get 15% off your order. So if you all like gothic jewelry, teas, roller perfumes, highly recommend checking out Petals and Poison, and you can use my code Spectre13 to get 15% off your order. All affiliate information will be found also on my website and in the description. All right, SoccerCon 2025. I always cosplay at conventions. I love an excuse to dress up. I've been cosplaying for the past 20 years, so I actually brought in some new costumes with me. And I think this is going to be like the last time in a while I'll debut new costumes at conventions, given the state of the world. So, my first new costume was Hollywood Persian. I actually have two versions of Hollywood Persian. I'll show you the second version right here. And originally, this was supposed to be inspired by Sabrina Carpenter's outfit during the Grammy Awards, but it just kind of had a life of its own. And when you see, like, this is, I would call like my normal walk around version of Hollywood Persian. The shirt here is designed by Spork. I love, just love everything that they do. And then my second new costume was Eternal Sailor Mars. This is actually my second time making Eternal Sailor Mars. Fun fact, I actually commissioned Eternal Sailor Mars like way back in the day. So like about almost like I want to say, oh yeah, about 10, 11 years ago when I was working on Eternal Sailor Pluto, I was also working and commissioning a Mars and a Mercury. So this is my Eternal Sailor Mars. Very proud of how it turned out. I used a different mythology and just some different approaches to fabrics this time. This time I actually used a smooth side, the shiny side of the bridal satin versus the wrong side of it. Because when I did Eternal Sailor Pluto and when I did my commissions, I used the wrong side. Now this is me being shiny here. The jewelry here was made by my friends over at Starlit Creations. And of course, I reprise Ari, Star Guardian Ari from League of Legends. This is my third time wearing it, and my goal is just to get decent photos of me as Star Guardian Ari. I think this is the last costume that I bought from overseas, and I think this is going to be the last one in a while because as much as I like cosplaying complicated outfits from League of Legends, I think I'm going to stick with cosplaying as Star Guardian Ari for a while. And that's okay with me because I love Ari. All right, so the convention took place in downtown Seattle, Washington. It was very interesting because right after the convention, we were driving around, a friend of mine and I were just driving around Everett, which is north of downtown Seattle. And we actually passed by the original site of SoccerCon 2001, which was at like this like Holiday Inn style hotel. Like it's like one of those hotels you find off the freeway. I mean, there's nothing like fancy about it. We're not talking about like a residence inn or a like home suites inn type thing. It's just like this a few steps up above a Motel 6 and it was just like this hotel off the freeway. And now here we are in 2025. We're in downtown Seattle and SoccerCon is split between two different venues. They're all part of the Washington Convention Center. So we have the Arch Building, which is the main Washington's Convention Center, and we have the Summit Building, which is the brand new Convention Center building. These are about a 5 minute walk in between, but if you're wearing like boots, high heels, or cosplayers with complicated shoes, it can be a bit of. You're going to have some planning and bring some comfy shoes with you. It was also pretty common to see folks from the ACLU outside the convention center as seen here, and they were actually pretty chill. They were there for a good cause. I'd rather have ACLU folks rather than folks who were trying to sell CDs like, hey, check out my music, check out my music. Give me money. And they were being very aggressive about it because I've dealt with that at San Diego Comic Con about like 10 years ago. They're just rude. And anytime I saw them, I just sort of just did the whole like just barge my way through, forget my man, for casually forget my manners, and just walk through their conversation so no one gets scammed. Because their scam is like, hey, we're gonna try to aggressively sell you our music. We're gonna try to get some money out of you by doing so, but that CD has no music, or it contains a virus if you attempt to play it. And also, who uses CDs these days? When it comes to music on physical media, it's mostly vinyl. And most of my music, I just listen off Spotify or YouTube. All right, as always, I like to cite what the popular fandoms at the convention were. Genshin Hoyoverse is going to be very evergreen at this convention. Also, if you notice, if you look at the cosplayers' outfits, you'll also notice that they have ribbons. Sakura Con has a huge ribbon culture. Not as huge as Anime Los Angeles when you have people like having ribbons dragging on the floor, or you have to create like a rolly thing to have all your ribbons just kind of rolled up and bundled. But on average, this was like the number of ribbons that people were getting, and we're really starting a whole ribbon trend around SakuraCon, and I'm here for that. In fact, at Emerald City Comic Con, I was actually giving away ribbons if people notice if I was cosplaying as Taylor Swift. However, their badge design didn't accommodate for ribbons, but thankfully, just for future reference, if you're going to SakuraCon, you can use the usual badge name ribbon thing because it will definitely fit the badge there. And I hope SakuraCon never changes their badge design because that would suck. Okay, this version of my presentation didn't save because it has like an old photo from WonderCon here. Should not be on here because yeah, Star Wars wasn't a part of SoccerCon, so that's my bad. But of course, we had like a lot of cardcaptor soccer cosplayers roaming around the convention. But if I were to also name something that else that was also popular, Love Live. Love Live made a huge comeback, and a lot of it had to do with Sora Tokui, the actress for Nico Yozawa, was present at the convention. So I saw two Nico cosplayers. I wanted to bring my Nico cosplay, but I didn't have enough room in my suitcase. And plus, I barely had enough time for costume changes, especially for walking from a faraway hotel back to convention center. So we saw like a lot of Love Live cosplayers at the event, which made me very happy. And I believe it deserves a slide of its own, just highlighting a couple of the Love Live cosplayers I met during the convention. Yay, Love Live! Love Live never dies. And before we go on to day one, I'd like to give a shout out to my idol group, Angel Hearts Idols. We will be performing this coming Sunday at Annie Pop over in Escondido. And Angel Hearts, we are a idol group that consists of members from across California, across the country, and we've been doing idol dances to Power Power Paradise. And let me tell you this, we got an amazing show coming up at Fanime later this month, and we hope to see you there. All right, not quite day one, but let's talk about registration. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. So, registration um, was hell. This was day zero, the day before the convention. I was working from home and I was seeing all these updates show up about people waiting upwards 3, 4 hours to pick up their badge. And from how I understand it, their computers, their system wasn't communicating with the server. So a lot of the badges, they had to look up your information manually. There was no QR code. There was like no way to like do everything automatically. You have to find you in the system. They have to look you up by name, and since we only had like maybe like a few people like running registration, and we had like a lot of people coming in to pick up their badges. For the photo that was taken here, let me just give you what my timeline was like. I go to my hotel at 8 p.m. I decide like, okay, let me just get settled. Let me get all my stuff in. Let me just make sure I get my room, make sure my hotel mate has her room too, that we're all settled in. And so yeah, we just get settled into our hotel, and we just decide like, okay, we can just wait a bit to get our badges. Badge pickup closes at 10. Maybe the lines have died down by the time it's 9 o'clock. We get to the line at 9:30. There is still a line outside the Summit building to get in. However, the line is moving. It's moving fairly fast outside. So we kind of figure, like, okay, even if we're in line, at least we're moving. That is until you get inside the building. So just for a frame of reference, my hotel mate, she had a free badge because she's part of CWF. And for presenters and for panelists, you don't get a special panelist badge. There's no special panelist check-in. You just get a standard Sakura Con badge. And I really think that conventions should start giving panelists a separate kind of badge because you kind of need to have priority to get in the building if you're running a panel, if you're running late, because things do happen. Or in the case of, for example, this is a different convention, but LA Comic Con, when people were having a hard time getting into the building and could barely make it to their panel because there was like a lot of traffic, a lot of issues of people trying to find parking, and they end up getting there later than they should have. Usually, that's why whenever I do LA Comic Con and I have panels, I just make sure I show up at 8 just to get a parking space. But the point being is there needs to be a separate panelist badge pickup to avoid like a mess like this because we needed to sleep because our first show of CWF was at 10 a.m. I wanted to go in, go out, get my badge, and just immediately go to sleep. That was not the case. I ended up picking up my media badge, but I also had to pick up another badge on behalf of someone. It was a regular attendee badge. So my friend was also in the same case. So remember, we showed up at 9:30 p.m. We didn't get out of the building until 11:56 p.m. So that's how long we were waiting to get badges for others. And it was pretty insane. And this did not make a lot of people very happy. In fact, the very next day, there was still a huge line outside the convention center to pick up the badge. And there was like a lot of reports of people spending most of their day one in badge pickup. So this is day one. And this is just me like on the third floor of the convention center. And this is just the line just sneaking around outside to get in to pick up your badge. Day one, as like I mentioned before, woke up early in the day, went to my usual coffee place, E-Bar over at the local Nordstrom's. And this is our cast for day one CWF. We were given a 10 a.m. time slot, so we were competing with opening ceremonies and the line for registration. So was my debut as Hollywood Persian, and this is the outfit that I made. It's inspired by Lady Gaga, Sabrina Carpenter, Taylor Swift, and Chelsea Green. And here, I didn't really know what to like expect on day one. I didn't know what our attendance was going to look like, but we had a very engaged audience. The video might be coming out estimated sometime in early June, but just to give you a quick recap, we had the return of Mr. Four Kids because apparently everything at SakuraCon has to have some type of educational element to it. So with Mr. Four Kids coming right in and everyone coming out to the national anthem as sung by four kids characters, to everyone's dismay, we kind of had to like find a way to boot this party pooper out. We had our host, Isaac and Miria, and we also had Doof in on the action as well. And of course, we had a tag match between the United Nations and versus, excuse me, it was a tag match between the United Nations and NECO World Order. And I had so much fun doing NECO World Order. This is just this was just a thing that we just came up with like at Anime Los Angeles when I was Nero. I actually did like a Nero intro video where I recorded it at WonderCon and it's like, hey, it's Nero. I'm here at Anime Expo 1998 because Anime Expo was actually at the at the Anaheim Hilton. So anyway, it was a lot of fun. I had a great time. As you can see here, NECA World Order, Lidden, and myself, we brought in our third man, Terry. The reason why Terry is our third man, you can see that he's on a mewing streak and he's got some catitude. And just here's a photo of us over at Neko World Order. This was just such a fun group to do, and I'm so glad that like we really are like building up a storyline with Neko World Order. All right, so after Cosplay Wrestling Federation, I decided to just kind of wander around the convention. This was like, I always talk about like how conventions kind of have like a main center, or like how they kind of have their town hall type of area where everyone seems to gather around. So this is over at the Arch Building. So this is a really nice spot to get photos because you have like an indoor fountain, you have like an indoor garden, and also outside you had like this, it's called Freeway Park because it's a park that's right above a freeway. There's a lot of greenery here, and this is also an area if you're gonna lobby con. I know a couple friends who lobby con in the Freeway Park area, and this is also a nice place for photos. Like all throughout the weekend, we had nonstop sunshine. Well, it did rain like towards the end, and it did rain in the on Saturday evening, but for the most part, it was bright and sunny at Sakura Con. Yeah, this is a freeway park over here. Again, this is Friday morning. People are probably still getting their badges because this area is fairly lively. And you also had some cosplay meetups in this area as well. Loading. What is wrong with you? All right, we'll just skip this. I also attended a couple panels on day one. Now, here's the thing with SoccerCon, and this is like one of the things I really needed an off year. The excuse me, the app for SoccerCon, we had to download a separate app called Eventiny, and I did not like it. A lot of people didn't like Eventiny, in fact. We didn't have a physical programming guide because I always like having a physical programming guide always on me. Like I'll just keep it in my tote bag and I'll reference a physical copy of the program guide. And because so many people were having issues with the Eventiny app, we actually were advised by the info booths to use the website instead. So we're on our phones, we're accessing the website, which has the program grid, it had this program schedule. And even then, it doesn't tell you which building you need to go to. So there's a lot of confusion. And also, to make matters worse, is normally conventions still have a schedule of what panels are in each room. So usually outside each panel room, they have like, oh, the such and such is happening at 9, such and such is happening at 10, blah, 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 blah. So I played something called Panel Roulette. So I decided to like to stay around the Summit building because it seemed to me that a lot of panels were happening there. So I'm just going to go into a random room. If the topic interests me, I'll just stick around. And plus, I needed to sit down anyway because I was wearing gold high heels. So one of the first panels I checked out was Name That Final Fantasy Tune, which is always fun. I'm not really versed in a lot of Final Fantasy tunes, but it's just kind of seeing like how rabid and how feral people in my fandom can be, and it was a lot of fun. And then just to kind of also just check out other panels, there was a city pop panel. It was actually like a 2 hour panel. I stayed for like most of it, not all of it. So here they are talking about Tomoko Aran. They were also giving some fun facts that the weekend, the guy who sings uh, "Can't Feel My Face" and was on the Super Bowl. Um, I know he's done more than that. So the weekend actually sampled one of her songs on one of his tracks. And then when they were playing Miki Matsubara's "Stay With Me," I was just singing on the opening chords because when it's Miki Matsubara, like you gotta sing "Stay With Me." And then like the panels were like, oh, there's no singing at this panel, like rude. But it was a fun panel. It was very informative. I actually got to just get some more city pop recommendations that I can put on my playlist because I love driving to city pop. Also, I attended my first ever drag show. One of the guests of honor, Oriana Perone. This is her right here, costuming as Eternal Sailor Pluto. And I was very happy to see that there were a lot of Eternal Sailor Scout cosplay at Sakura Con. And like, yay, I'm wearing Mars and we have Pluto here. And so her opening bit was she went in as Eternal Sailor Pluto and she was lip syncing to If I Could Turn Back Time. And she was doing like all these flips and cartwheels like all over the auditorium. And this was just amazing. Like, I've never been to a drag show. I don't know what to expect. And I'm just going to have fun with this. And then we also brought out another drag personality here. I forgot what their name was, but they were presenting as Eternal Sailor Uranus. It's like, yeah, we have more Eternals all up in this. So Uranus came out to Red Wine Supernova by Chapel Roan, which is actually my favorite Chapel Roan song. So just kind of like just admiring their costume here because I also cosplay as Eternal uh, Sailor Mars, Eternal Sailor Pluto. I'm just happy to see like, yay, there's more Eternal people here. Yeah, this is my first ever drag show because I've always been curious about checking out drag shows here, but I never have the time. I always have something going on any given Sunday. But like, oh hey, was just so happy to like go to like an anime themed drag show. The way how this drag show played out was it was very much like RuPaul's Drag Race. So we got some random people to show up to kind of like from the audience. They kind of like did a dance off thing to the hamster dance. And then Pluto here decided to just pick and choose who from like the dance off gets to be on stage. And they basically had like just some drag race related challenges. So you had like a magical girl attack, transformation, and pose off, which I thought was cute. And of course, the bottom two had to lip sync for their lives. And I thought this was just a lot of fun. I didn't stay for the whole thing because I had to meet up with friends for cat cafe times. But I had a lot of fun, and I'm glad I randomly stumbled into this because I was on the fifth floor, just kind of like preparing for my next panel, just getting some soda and whatnot. And then I just hearing all this hooting and hollering from like the main stage. Like, you know what? I can go check this out, and I'm just gonna like chill here. And I just stumbled into my first ever drag show, and I had a lot of fun. And I highly recommend it. More conventions need to have daytime drag shows. Okay, so I just want to highlight some cosplays from Friday. So ran into a white mage. So happy to see Final Fantasy cosplayers in the Pacific Northwest. We also have Chibi Madoka here hanging out at Artist Alley. And then we also had Rico in the, I believe this is the White Day outfit. Because I think I was in a White Day group that had these outfits. But it's just been a while, and I've cosplayed a lot from Love Live. It's just hard for me to keep track. Maybe Silva Dragon in the chat can hold me accountable here. All right, more Friday cosplays. Appropriately, someone went as Luce from the Catholic Church because the Catholic Church, like, yeah, we need to get the kids in. Like, let's have anime mascots for the Catholic Church. I know I kind of chortle because of what happened to the Pope after Sakura Con, but what made it more funny was my roommates and I Saturday evening after CWF, for some reason we got on the topic of JD Vance, and then dear God was asking, "Hey, what is JD Vance up to these days?" And of course, it happened to be the same day that JD Vance has an audience with the Pope. Insert joke here. I don't know what this photo in the middle is from, but what the cosplay is for the middle is. But I was pretty impressed by the wig work, the colors. I thought that was pretty cool. And of course, we have um, Gura from Hololive, also present as well here in that courtyard that I was talking about earlier. And of course, I have to highlight the cats of Sakura Con. I attended not one but two cat type events. So in the dealer's hall, they had like a little tent where you can donate $10 and pet cats. These cats were looking for homes. Most of them were kittens. And I decided to, like, you know, $10. I'm in my NECA World Order Persian outfit. So I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of hang out with the kitties here. And then I decided to create a CWF group bonding recreational activity. So my friends who were cosplaying from Italia and Mr. Four Kids, we ended up going to NECO Seattle. This is always a go-to of mine anytime I'm up in Seattle. And I'm just so happy to like, yeah, like Friday was like a totally cat-filled day with NECO World Order, meeting the kittens of Sakura Con. Shout out to my friend Eurobeat Nikkei, who told me about that thing in the dealer's hall. Because like Because I was just telling him, like, yeah, Neko World Order. Like, oh, by the way, there's cats in a dealer's hall. I'm like real cats. I will give them pets. I will give them hugs. And like this guy here on the right hand side, he was just kind of just sniffing me out while I was taking a selfie with him. So I thought that was very wholesome. We had some sassy kitties over at the Neko Cat Cafe. I always like coming here, grabbing myself a cup of coffee, and just hanging out with my favorite cats of Seattle. And there's just us, just kind of wrapping up our day one at the Cat Cafe. Afterwards, we went to the ramen place down the street. This is the second time I've been to that ramen place. It gets pretty busy in the evening for obvious reasons. But usually, if you go during lunch, it's not too bad. But it was like the hearty dinner that I needed at the end of the day. All right, so before we get into Saturday, another shout out to one of our affiliates, multitasky.com. Multitasky.com, you can get some home office supplies. I know I work from home and I also have like a lot of things that I bought from multitasky.com to set up my home office, like this light ring I have here over at the Biltmore Hotel. I've used this light ring for selfies, use them for video presentations where I have to do a face reveal. So I love their post-it notes, their pens. They got everything you need to like just have a cozy soft femme type of office. And because it's Asian American Pacific Islander month, this is also Asian owned. So if you want to go ahead and support an Asian American owned business, highly recommend multitasky.com, and you can use my code CATHOLICCATS for 10% off your order. All right, let's go into day two. So, with day two, we had a series of unfortunate events. I woke up like at around 9 a.m., slept in for a little bit, and was seeing messages on the group chat asking if there was a fire at Sakura Con. It turned out there was a grease fire at the Cheesecake Factory, which shared the same building as the Artist Alley. Artist Alley had to be closed for most of the morning into the afternoon, and also the Arch building where it was held also had to be closed off temporarily. A lot of events were such as like the gaming room, the AMV room. Some of them continued, but I know a few people had to cancel their panels because of the smoke that was going into the Arch building. Decided to spend like most of the day over at the Summit building, even though like I wanted to spend like my day two morning just roaming around the Arch building, just kind of exploring around a little bit. But I had to just redirect my plans. Like, okay, I'll just go to the Summit building, just kind of see what's there. So if you can see here, this is off Pine Street, and you can see some fire trucks just coming in, and you can see a lot of people here being redirected to the Summit building. So over at the Summit building, we had Maho Photo, and this is where you can get free cosplay photos with your own backdrop here. It had a neutral backdrop. Again, the photos were free, and they said that the photos will come in on their website within the next 10 weeks or so. Looking forward to see how my Star Guardian Ari photos turned out. I always appreciate seeing free cosplay photography at conventions. Well, yes, I do know that there's a lot of people like that were advertising private photo shoots, and I used to do private photo shoots all the time. However, because of the way the economy is right now, I don't really have a lot of budget to spend on a $75 to $150 photo shoot. If you're kind of curious, that's how much on average people were charging for photo shoots, 75 to 150. But whereas here you can get a free photo shoot with a neutral background right here. They were very nice. You get about 4 to 5 shots, and I really love Maho Photo. Highly recommend following them. And as I understand it, they do like a lot of events around the Pacific Northwest. So definitely show them your support, show them some love, because I really liked what they had to say. Like, yeah, we believe everyone deserves to get their photo taken. Aw, you guys are so sweet. And this is just kind of like a shot of someone's private photo shoot. Just want to get something candid. This is not at Freeway Park. This is over at the Summit building. There's like this balcony that kind of has like a garden type thing. And this is where also people are doing some private shoots as well. I know I've done some self shoots here, both for Emerald City and for Sakura Con. Got some good photos up here. Also, just kind of did some running around the dealer's hall at Sakura Con. So here we have a Brandon McGinnis. We had like a row of voice actors where you can get their autographs, have a Funko Pop signed. Like I had no idea he was in Epic the Musical as Apollo. Yeah, speaking of the Epic the Musical, there was a tea called like I think they're called like Tiefling teas. And they were also selling like some Epic the Musical thematic teas. I wish I had extra money to buy the teas because they also had like if you spend $60 with us, you get like a free D&D campaign. Like oh my god, yes, I would have loved that. Also day two, this some cosplays outside the vendor hall. We had like some Miyazaki, some Studio Ghibli folks here. Also another favorite costume, the Cabbage Man from Avatar: The Last Airbender. We also have some arcane cosplayers here. Not as lot many arcane cosplayers compared to WonderCon and what was the other one? Oh, Emerald City Comic Con. I mean, I did see like quite a bit of arcane cosplayers at at SoccerCon, but not as many as you would think they were are. And this is also just a quick shot of like outside the artist alley as it was opening up again. While waiting for artist alley to be open, a friend and I decided to go grab dumplings over at like this I want to call it a mall, but it's like one of those malls that kind of has the vibe that they're kind of dilapidating because a lot of their stores are going out of business, but they still have a food court. And a friend of mine and I went over to Din Tai Fung because the dumplings place right across the convention is always there's always a long wait for it. It's like, you know what, let's just go to Din Tai Fung, just take our time, enjoy some dumplings, and just wait for Arts Alley to open up again. Because we were also checking our phones, like, oh, when is Arts Alley opening up again? And they did open up again, like at around 3 o'clock. And they also announced that Arts Alley would be open till about 9 p.m. So artists still had time to sell their art in the Arts Alley for the time that they may have lost because of the fires. I really felt bad for a lot of the artists here. But I did a thorough walk of both the vendor hall and the Artist Alley on Saturday with my friend because he was curious to check out what was here, if there was like anything he was interested in. And again, this friend I was taking around Sakura Con. It's been a while since he's been to Sakura Con. So like, okay, we'll just look around. Also, some vibes of the convention. We also had some music being played over in the Summit Building. This is my buddy Hector. He plays a saxophone at conventions. He plays like a lot of anime songs, and also he was playing like a lot of 80s songs with his buddy here on guitar. Like he was playing Careless Whisper, Hotel California. I thought it was like just added to the vibes of the convention. I was also telling him like, dude, you gotta like show up, play music like at a Pacific Northwest Idol show or a convention that highlights some anime musicians because you're like one of the OG people. Like you are older than Angel Hearts as far as cosplay musicians, musical acts go. So if you ever see Hector with a saxophone at a con, go say hi to him. Check out his music. He's pretty awesome. All right, the main event. So there's like a lot of things going on Saturday evening. You had the Sally and Maki concert, you had the Real concert, Masquerade, a lot of other things going on. And I also, as I understand it, SoccerCon also has a very happening nightlife. I didn't really do much in terms of nightlife because I was just so busy with Cosplay Wrestling Federation and I just wanted a good night's sleep because I'm getting old. So day two. So this is considered night two of Cosplay Wrestling Federation. I entered in as Mars in the Eternals outfit right here. I had a great time being Mars on stage, and I honestly think, just kind of looking back of all my promos as Sailor Mars, that this was the strongest one I've ever put on. And compared to Anime Los Angeles, I was ready for the finals, so I actually did prepare some material if I was up there because when I went up for ALA, I wasn't expecting to go for that. I was gonna be selected for the main belt. Like, oh, what's going on? But I was actually prepared, and I had like some good material to just drop in there. I actually did drop like a Kendrick Lamar reference onto Tuxedo Mask. I wasn't sure if the Pacific Northwest um knew who Lamar was. I don't know how to word this right, but if I mention like Compton, if I mentioned Kendrick Lamar just being from Southern California, like yeah, they would know that, but I just don't know how ubiquitous Kendrick Lamar is with Pacific Northwest geek culture, if that makes any sense. Because I had to call out Tuxedo Mask on his activities with the type of people he dates. I will leave it at that. There is a trend here, and the trend is under 18. So anywho, we had some new folks coming in. We had Majima. We had who was our other newbie person here? My brain is drawing a blank. Um, I know we also had some California people also come in too. Like I said, my friend who's cosplaying as Shikanoko, plus Dear God was always coming in too. And of course, the person who was holding a belt was our Linen over here. However, the belt um, had to be given to Edelgard from Fire Emblem. Edelgard did such an amazing job. I think everyone here did an amazing job here. I also love how this common writer is posed because I just realized he's doing the Nicki Minaj anaconda pose. Oh yeah, Wario was also like our new one too. Like yeah, like it's like I remember, but I don't remember because I had so much fun because a lot of things turned out to be a blur. And of course, we had Homura here just kicking the cube over there. But I had a lot of fun, and of course, just shout out to everyone at CWF for being so supportive. At the end of the show, I was allowed to give a shout out to NECA World Order, and also shout out to my my book that's currently out in the wild right now. We didn't have time to create an extra slide for the Fangirl Diaries, because I had like a lot of questions on Sunday. Like, yeah, you wrote a book. What's the title? I want to read it. I'm like, okay, for future reference, we need to make an extra slide advertising the Fangirl Diaries. All right. Let's just kind of highlight some Saturday cosplays. So, because I'm a huge fan of all things girly, and of course, shoujo anything, I was very happy to see Magic Knight Rayer's cosplays. Like, yay, my people! And then, of course, I have to highlight Sailor Moon cosplayers. And of course, it's been a hot minute since I'd seen Chi cosplayers from Chobits. Like, yay, I remember all of y'all. And I just kind of like this setup here because it's like you're looking at a convention from 2002. Of course, some other cosplays I wanted to highlight. I was very happy to see Witch of from Mercury cosplayers. Even though I had mixed thoughts on Witch from Mercury, it's still better than Gundam Seed. The first 12 I love, but this last half of that anime, it's like you had potential here, but I also understand that they're all under pressure from Bandai to adhere to certain guidelines. But yeah, I'm just very happy to see Witch from Mercury cosplayers. Of course, Perfect Blue. I'm always happy to see Mima. I was very tempted to bring my white Mima cosplay to this con, but I'm still a little bit body conscious of wearing it, so I'll just wait till like I lose a little bit of weight. And then we have an armored saber here, and armored sabers always make me very happy. All right, before we go into Sunday, Convention Tea is brought to you by YMACsweater.com. You can use my code YMAC hyphen Dame Asnable to get 40% off your order over at YMAC. This is my go-to place for cardigans. This is my go-to place for cozy clothes because sometimes you just need like just cozy up at the comfort of your home. I'm a cat lady, so sometimes I just want to just cozy up, light a candle, drink some tea, and cozy up with my fur babies in a cardigan because cardigans are that comfy, and yeah, you just sometimes just need to stay warm at home. And 40% off of a cardigan in this economy, I'd take that. All right, day 3, Easter Sunday. Unfortunately, my go-to coffee place is closed. E-bar was closed. So I've been hearing like a lot of my friends talk very positively about Monorail Espresso. This is over at the Summit Building, and there was a little bit of a line for it on Sunday morning, but like, let me just see what the hype is all about. So I ended up ordering on London Fog because I had a panel later that day. It was so good. Like, oh my God, like I'm definitely gonna be going to Monorail Espresso if the line is short because this is gonna be like one of my go-to coffee places during the convention. I also love the detail here. Hey Chu, order over there. Thank you. I don't know. I just love the reference to Cyberpunk. I also want to highlight just a couple of like offerings from Sakura Con that I think what makes it so unique from other anime conventions. I appreciate they had a cosplay swap meet, or rather a cosplay swap. So what you would do is you would bring your costumes and you just kind of lay it out right here, and you would also bring, you can either trade or you can also um, pay someone via Venmo if you were interested in their costume. Not a lot of conventions, at least in Southern California, have a cheap swap meet. From how I understand it, yeah, you could just bring your costumes here at no additional cost and just swap with for your fellow cosplayers. Whereas at swap meets in Southern California, sometimes you're paying upwards $100 on top of your badge to partake in a swap meet, and you hope to the gods that you get your money back. But here, just swap, just kind of just lay out what you have, and there you go. I didn't really see anything that just came to mind, but if I were local to the Pacific Northwest, like definitely I would bring costumes to swap on day 3. Um, yeah, because I think this would be just a great way to just kind of get rid of like some of my old costumes. Also, we had a Gunpla like build session here. They were also giving out some entry level kits if you wanted to get into Gunpla to see if it was right for you. And also, here are the remains of all the runners that were used at this Gunpla build build room. The best way I can describe it is like, yeah, we just have a space where we provide supplies. You can go ahead and build your Gunpla that you've picked up at the dealer's hall. You could pick up one of our kits, see if the hobby's for you. And we have people who are more than willing to help you through this. So I was very happy to see this at the convention because you know what? More conventions, they need like a Gunpla build space for us Gunpla builders. Because I do have an entry level kit that, you know what, I want to learn how to do this. I'm pretty sure, like with entry level kits, it's very self explanatory. But just kind of having the guidance of like just other people there would sure help. Yeah, check out all those runners. The remains on, yeah, the remains of the Gunpla. All right, day 3. More day 3 stuff. I decided to just also check out the manga library. I don't really go to manga libraries a lot. I usually go to manga libraries, so I just kind of chill, just kind of read. I actually saw one of the books from one of my mentors, Helen McCarthy, of the Anime Encyclopedia. It's like, yeah, I was like, even happy not to only to see like old Tokyo Pop mangas here, but also see like Japanese like reference books, anime reference books. So like I was very happy to see that. So with the manga library, you just basically check in your backpack, check in your book bag, and you would just kind of pick out some manga. They had both English and in Japanese, and again, they also had like some anime reference books. And this would just be a nice, quiet place to read. And I also like the fact that it looked and felt like a library. And also, I don't know if you can see here. I should have brought up some of my more close-ups of some of the books here, but they even had plushies like next to the manga from what respective series they were from. Also, like I said, Love Live Never Dies. I love the fact that we saw some Nijigasaki cosplayers here, and some of the people here actually recognized me because, like, oh yeah, we cosplayed together. Like, yay! I'm just very happy to see Nijigasaki cosplayers in general because it's my favorite out of all however many Love Live series there are. And also, here's my audience for my second panel. This is the debut of In My Y2K Era Conventions and Cosplay, where I focus in more on the convention and cosplay scene of the early 2000s. I'm still working on revising it, it's still a work in progress, but this is just all my CWF buddies who got VIP access to get seated early at my panel. Also, day 3, I did one final browse through the dealer's room. The dealer's room at Sakura Con I thought was very interesting. Their 18 plus stuff was not covered, I guess you can say, because usually at Anime Expo, if they have like an 18 plus booth, they would like have it like curtain off, like in a separate part of the dealer's hall where you need to like show ID to get into that curtain off section. Not that I'm prude or anything, it's more like, yeah, I was just kind of surprised to see like 18 plus stuff being sold out in the open. Also, you had like a lot of places selling Japanese snacks, a lot of places selling manga. I was very happy to, excuse me, I was very happy to see like physical manga being sold. I was also happy seeing physical DVDs being sold. Like I said earlier, there's like a little kitty section where you can hang out with cats, which I loved. And again, a donation $10 allows you to pet the cats, and you can also buy some cat themed coffee that they made. That would also help the cats in the shelter as well. Um, you also have people selling charms. You had people selling enamel pins. But however, my favorite booth in the dealer's hall, and I discovered this on the very last day, was a merch booth that was selling merchandise from various magical girl anime, and they also had the Universal Studios Japan Sailor Moon merchandise. And I'm like, okay, if you have this, anything Sailor Mars related, I need it. Because they had like the Sailor Mars bow, they had like almost everything for every respective senshi, and I'm like, I need all my Mars stuff. Um, the Universal stuff obviously was more on the pricier side. However, I did manage to get the Mars and Kuromi collaboration, and now that's on my laptop bag because I am now eternally Mars for Cosplay Wrestling Federation. Yeah, just another shot of just a typical booth at the Sakura Con dealers hall. You had like a lot of people selling plushes, figures, etc. I'm not photoed here, but I also every Sunday of SoccerCon, I always buy my go-to chocolate. Because it's Easter Sunday, I like picking up some chocolate for a friend and I to share, and I always get like milk chocolate from Roy's Chocolate. In fact, my friend was like, "Hey, I tried that chocolate of yours, and I think I'm gonna keep it because I don't." He was being sarcastic. I'm just trying to figure out how to word it because I can't. I don't think I can get the sarcasm across. Basically, he's like, "Yeah, please leave your chocolate here because I would like to eat it all." He didn't word it that way, but he worded it in a much more sarcastic way. It's like, yeah, I think this chocolate is bad. I'm gonna eat the rest of this chocolate so you don't have to worry about eating bad chocolate. But Roy's chocolate, oh, it's so divine. Like I was like, my friend like ate half the box. I'm like, yeah, it's one lovely. It's a great Easter treat. Again, always happy to see our tomato pilot here from Richard Mercury. They were also selling Lolita dresses and accessories at this event. I actually recognized some of the accessories booths that they were also at WonderCon. However, what was really unique about this particular Lolita booth is they had this plush cat. It also functions as a purse. Now, if they ever have a cow cat version of this, I would so buy it. Also, tradition on Easter Sunday at SoccerCon is some cosplayers like to integrate like bunny rabbit ears, and they also like to give out Easter eggs. So basically, you would probably like have people like just passing out plastic Easter eggs, and it would have like some candy in there. I thought it was a wholesome thing to do. I thought about going as Princess Serenity, just resurrecting my Princess Serenity from the dead, and just give out some Easter treats, and just have like yeah, Usagi, the Easter princess. And of course, we have like some fake cosplayers here, and we also have a Black Butler cosplayer over there. Someone was telling me that at NorwestCon, which is like the sci-fi fantasy convention that takes place during the same time as SoccerCon, they also have an Easter tradition too, but instead of candy in the plastic Easter eggs, you get lewds. I will leave it at that. And I believe they call it Easter lewds or something. All right, some day 3 cosplay highlights. Happy to see a League of Legends cosplayer. Happy to see even more Love Live cosplayers. And of course, it wouldn't be a SoccerCon without highlighting more Cardcaptor Sakura cosplayers. I was supposed to go as Sakura in her cat outfit, but I didn't have time to finish. And plus, as I was finishing it, it was during the time of stuff going up in cost. It's like, okay, I'm going to keep Sakura here in the back burner, and I'll figure out how to complete the rest of it because I still need cat ears. I still need the belt. I still need the boots, and I'll figure this out. And with that said, this mostly concludes SakuraCon 2025. It was a pretty good con, but I'll get into my final thoughts in a few moments. But I left Sakura Con at about 4 o'clock. It was already raining. I was walking in my Ari cosplay from the convention center to my hotel. When my friend picked me up from the hotel, he was like, "Yeah, it looks like I picked up a drenched fox." I'm like, "Senpai." But I had a lot of fun, and let me just go through some of my final thoughts and my critique of SoccerCon 2025. But before I do, I want to give a shout out to my book, The Fangirl Diaries. This is a nonfiction book all about the intersection of girlhood and anime fandom at the turn of the millennium. Basically, if you remember going to Annie Pike, trading tapes online, setting up your VCR to watch Sailor Moon, this is definitely the book that documents what it was like being a teenage fangirl in the late 90s and early 2000s, an era before streaming, an era before you can get your cosplays on Amazon. So, highly recommend checking out my book. Link in description to find out where you can buy my book. And you have a ton more options now. Not only you can get it through my publisher, you can get it through Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, Bookshop, and Astoria Books if you're based out in New York. I also want to give a special thanks to Maho Photo because, again, I always appreciate a free service for folks taking cosplay photos for free. Because even though, while I do respect cosplay photographers charging, some of those cosplay photographers can be pretty sketchy and very selective of who they work with. But I do admire Maho Photo's mission to, hey, everyone deserves to get their photo taken. Let's go. All right, constructive criticism. I took this photo on Sunday of the con, and this was the area of the arch building that was still singed from the fire from the day before. I'm glad people were safe, no one was harmed, and that the fire was contained. I know this is something that was out of Sakura Con's control. However, it did kind of make the vibe like feel a bit off. But again, this is just something that I felt like Sakura Con could not control, and I do appreciate that they allowed the artists to stay extra on Saturday and start earlier on Sunday. So with that said, some of the constructive criticism I have is registration. It goes without saying that one thing SoccerCon can look into in the future is mailing badges, or perhaps going into a QR code system where you can just scan your badge, or scan a QR code, and they can populate your badge right there and then. WonderCon uses it, Anime Expo uses it. I'm not the biggest fan of ShowClicks or Eventbrite, but that is something to look into towards the future. I just wanted just a much more efficient way to pick up badges so we're not waiting in line. We don't have to worry about registration staff stressing about typing things in manually. I want to have a system that is fair for everyone, so we can all get our badges in a um, in a non-disruptive order, if that makes any sense. My other biggest criticism of this convention is the schedule. Back in my day, back in '09, we had different boards across the convention that had a physical schedule. Well, yes, in the main atrium area of the arch building, we had like some sort of signage saying when panels were, when main events were, but to me, that's not enough. I miss that whole huge board that was like in the middle of the arch building, which had every panel scheduled out, because at least I could take a photo of that and reference that on my phone camera if there was like a panel I wanted to go to. We need a better app to access these panels. We need to clarify whether a panel or an event is in the arch building or in the summit building. And we just kind of need just a better way to just kind of identify what panels are in what room. Emerald City Con does this where you take the screen that's outside of the panel room and then you have the complete schedule of what panels are going to be in that room. So I'm not playing, I guess you can say, panel roulette. I would just like to see more organization on that front. I would also like to see cosplay gatherings and cosplay meetups included on the schedule, because I had to go and pull through different places to find out when cosplay meetups were. Cosplay meetups were mostly on Facebook, but I hardly use Facebook. and I was wondering where the Fate meeting was gonna be because I wanted to attend a Fate meeting because like okay, I've been every year I usually cosplay something from Fate at Sakura Con. I was thinking about bringing back Nero, but alas, there was no Fate meetup or I couldn't find it. So I think Sakura Con needs to also communicate with folks who are running cosplay meetups so they can also add that in the schedule too. Emerald City Comic Con does this, Anime Los Angeles does this. Work with your community to just integrate that in with the schedule because these are people that are going to are giving back to your convention by hosting cosplay meetups. They're hosting spaces so that people in individual fandoms can connect with their peers within that fandom. And I think it would be of great value for SakuraCon to add that to their programming. Let's see. Other than the headless Labubu here, I just learned that Labubus are a thing. I'm old. Other pieces of constructive criticism. I think those are my main points for constructive criticism. Overall, I still enjoyed the convention. I was gonna have an interview with the actress for Nico Yazawa, but however, at the very last minute, and I understand it. She had to kindly decline the interview, and I know I get it. It happens a lot. I'm just disappointed that I didn't get to see her during the convention, but that's more on me. But also I can't help feel but disappointed that I wasn't able to interview her or see her at one point during the convention because I just had so much going on and doing the interview would have been like my chance to like just meet her. um I had like a lot of questions ready that I was hoping that she would answer, but you know what, anytime like a guest shows up at a convention, things happen. I get it, but I also know I feel very disappointed with that, but you know what, that's okay. We move on with life. Maybe this just wasn't a time to meet Nico Yazawa. I was gonna show her a picture of my cat, which I named after Nico Yazawa. Anyway, otherwise, I really liked the dealer's hall. I really liked the artist alley. I liked what panels I went to. I really liked the fact that they were trying to integrate like different types of programming into the schedule. Like I said, this was my first ever drag show, and I'm glad I stumbled upon it. But also was wondering like what other events could have been I could have checked out and attended had there was a better program guide, had there been a better schedule to access. Okay, general final thoughts of the convention. So this is just like my series of like convention of my Hollywood Persian outfits, and also I just want to give out shout out to my buddy here, Eurobeat Nick K. I've been friends with them for like the past like 20 years. Glad to see we could still be friends up to this day. And yeah, final thoughts of SoccerCon. Even though that this was an off year, and I said it at my panel on the very last day, even though SoccerCon, this kind of felt off, I will still choose this SoccerCon over most anime conventions in Southern California. And by most Southern California anime conventions, I'm talking about the ones that are more focused in with voice actor autographs, and so forth. You know which ones I'm talking about. I like going to conventions where there's a variety of programming going on to the late night. I like conventions where they allow for fan submitted programming, whether it's cosplay meetups, whether it's panels, events, and so forth. And I really like supporting conventions like SoccerCon that have been around for a while. And granted, this year was far from perfect, but I still like the vibes of the Pacific Northwest. I still liked hanging out with friends. I still like cosplaying. I just like just checking out just different things at the dealer's hall. I like walking around with my friend on Saturday to just learn about like the differences between SoccerCon 20 years ago and the present. And it was just still a lot of fun for me. I mean, granted, like I would probably rank this as number 3 of like all the soccer cons I attended, but I still enjoyed myself. I still enjoyed this con. Shout out to like all my friends who just ended up buying me Sailor Mars related presents. The United Nations tag team, they gave me, excuse me, they gave me a Sailor Mars enamel pin, and then NECA World Order, our Terry from NECA World Order gave me a Sailor Mars sticker. So I really feel that Sailor Mars is truly a part of me, and it was just really an amazing convention, and I highly recommend Sakura Con if you're really looking for that classic anime convention feel, because it's just unfortunate that a lot of conventions are kind of turning into this voice actor petting zoo model. I just like my conventions where, I show up, there's a lot of events to do, there's workshops, there's like photo studios, there's karaoke, there's talent shows, there's idol events. There's a lot of that going on. And I really feel conventions like Sakura Con that have been going on a while are nothing without the fans and without fan submitted content. Cosplay Wrestling Federation, not to toot our own horn, is one of those organizations that is very much uh, an, a main event that is fan submitted. And we've been really, really working our relationships with conventions. We've been really networking with conventions to really boost up our reputation within the convention scene. And I'm really glad that we're doing what we're doing. Were able to get a show at 8 o'clock on Saturday. And it was unfortunate that we had to be slotted in for 10 a.m. on Sunday, 10 a.m. on Friday, competing with opening ceremonies and the line. But at least we were still able to perform. At least we were able to get two shows, and I'm just happy just to be performing on stage with everyone. So with that said, highly recommend Sakura Con. If you're a local, highly recommend it. I'm still going back and forth whether I prefer Emerald City or Sakura Con, but again, they're two different conventions, and I enjoy both. Again, I just like Pacific Northwest vibes. I like leaving my hotel, having a cup of coffee, and just kind of like just going into the convention, just kind of like just slowly enjoying things, just going into the freeway park, getting some photos in the morning, or just going up to the balcony here and just getting some photos, just meeting people. Everyone here is just super friendly, which I really like. And I didn't really feel like I ran into like anyone who was like clout chasing for cost fame, which is another aspect I like about the Pacific Northwest community. I mean, I wish I had time to check out the cosplay contest, but again, it was happening at the same time as CWF, so unfortunately, conflicting things happen like that. All right, with that said, thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of Convention Tea. Always happy to have visitors to my virtual cottage here, where we can share in a cup of tea and talk about conventions. This wraps it up for SakuraCon 2025. And does this play? No, the video is not playing. But that's us just yeeting right before the main event at SakuraCon. With that said, thank you so much for tuning in. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you are on Twitch, please hit the follow button and consider being a subscriber today. Every dollar counts towards our convention funding to travel to cons, or even just to pay for some parking, because parking in LA, it's not fun. And if you have a chance, please buy my book, The Fangirl Diaries. It is the first of its kind about the millennial experience and anime fandom. So please check it out. Link in bio, link in description for information on where to buy and how to buy. And like I said, if I'm at a convention, I'm more than happy to sign a copy of your book, copy of the Fangirl Diaries. Okay, I'm starting to fade in right here. Okay. With that said, thank you so much for your time. And with that said, we will see you at the con.